So overall in Star Wars, we have seen a reoccurring trend when it comes to the Republic, and that one trend is that they always seem to demilitarize after major conflicts, which leaves them exposed and vulnerable in searching for what to do in a moment of panic or in a time where somebody else is invading or attacking or decides to threaten and destroy everything that's going on. And I personally see this as a major flaw in what the Republic believes in. They don't really believe in having a military outside of conflicts. Also, in a way, it is also very understandable why most of the galaxies, most of the systems in the galaxy do not want any more war and want anybody to have an army. I also do understand exactly why the Republic doesn't necessarily want to have an army, or the people of the Republic don't want to have an army outside of any kind of conflict. Because when you equate what happened with the clones and also the ones, people who lived to the Empire, you equate what the Empire did with their army, you can strongly understand why exactly they wouldn't want this force walking around anymore. But as I said earlier in the video, I personally think it is pretty dumb, and I think it's honestly very irresponsible to have something done like this, because not only are you leaving yourself exposed, but you're also leaving thousands, millions of people on different planets exposed, millions of people on different areas exposed, and you're also just not prepared to fight for anything. This is also why the Empire is able to come back in the form of the First Order so easily, because there was no kind of military force going on. They weren't looking out for anything. They were just letting the galaxy be how it was. Now, if I was a Jedi, I would honestly take that approach myself. I would just let the galaxy be how it bees and just rely on nothing but the Force to get my answers and understand what's going on in around the galaxy. But let's just say I'm a general or a diplomat in the Republic, I would be advocating heavily for a very, very strong and powerful army, especially while the Empire is currently down. As we all know as well, after the Battle of Jakku, there was also a lot of splinter cells of the Empire still in the waits, just waiting around a galaxy, waiting for a chance to strike again. And we had even more powerful threats, even more than that. If you guys have been keeping up with Legends, you guys should have heard about the Yuuzhan Vong before. The Vong are who exactly Palpatine were preparing for from a military standpoint. Palpatine knew that this wasn't the only part of the galaxy. You know, there were some people who were outside of the galaxy, and he probably even felt it through the Force at some point. But obviously Palpatine took it in the wrong direction. You didn't need to enslave half the entire galaxy or put the entire galaxy under the Empire's foot in order to achieve this goal. You could have done it in a more civil manner. Here's how exactly I would run a whole republic if I were to be in charge. Let's just say I'm appointed Supreme Chancellor of the New Republic and I'm in charge of seeing and outgoing how everything should go in a galaxy. If I were in charge, I would personally use the clones yet again, but not necessarily in a way that they use them during the Clone Wars. I would only make about 1 to 2 million every 4 years or so. Now you may be asking yourself, why would I do it in intervals such like that? Why would I just go straight clone army if I could? And believe me, I would want to, but personally, it's because each clone costs about 1 million credits each. I mean, that is just way too expensive to keep up in an economy like that. And I mean, of course, we'll be trying to grow the economy as best as we can, but in order to, shuffle funds to one other direction, I would have to cut it off every 2 to 4 years. And in between that time, I would also go back and actually conscript a bunch, do what the Empire did. I would conscript a bunch of humans and other aliens who are willing to fight for the Republic and get them to join as well. I would also have ranks as well. Obviously, every military has to have their own specialization units, and they also have to have ranks as well. So in terms of clone commandos, I would actually stop genetically modifying them. In order to cut costs in that area as well, I would completely stop genetically modifying them and just treat them more as really specially trained soldiers. If you guys have any familiarity with a Halo universe, this is exactly what I would treat them as. I would treat them more as ODSTs, something as more as like a specially trained soldier who is very strong and is a little bit more strategic and more tactical than your average clone or average soldier. And this clone commandos would be mainly my strategic and a more specialized unit, something that I can work on and just deploy in case anything really starts to hit the fan. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to probably ask here next is if I'm going to actually use force sensitive clones, and that's actually not exactly what I would go down this route for. I wouldn't like to use force sensitive clones whatsoever. Personally, to me, it's just be way too much of a hassle, way too much of a drawback. It's just not worth it in my opinion, especially about the amount of time it would take. I would personally take a completely different route than force sensitive clones. Although the thought and the idea of having force sensitive clones is really cool personally to me. That's just how it is. I personally think it's still really cool, but just no. If I was running it, no. Another reason why I would use stormtroopers and clone troopers is because I would rather have them have their own individual personalities. A lot of people say like, hey, why not just have droids again? But droids don't have their own individual personalities. They can't think outside of one programming. So this is exactly how I would have it be. I would have humans and clones run it. Now, I can go even deeper into this subject, honestly, because I've honestly thought about this very deeply, probably more deeply than I personally should have. But in order to save this video from being like a 40-minute video talking about how I would run the entire military of Star Wars or the New Republic, I'm gonna save that right here. I'm gonna cut myself off. But anyway, that's pretty much how I would run it. Now, personally, I understand the feelings, as I said earlier, I understand the feelings and sentiment towards having a standing army when you're not in necessarily during wartime. And personally, I understand right after the Empire took over, you know, you didn't necessarily have an army, so you had to pretty much get a ragtag group of rebels and a resistance. So honestly, don't even like think about that part. What I'm talking about, I understand the Republic lost their armies technically to the Empire, but I don't even want to talk about that part because that part's just honestly not that fair. What I'm talking about is after Return of the Jedi and going further into the sequels, I don't understand why they didn't have necessarily a standing army ready to go at any moment. And even if the standing army isn't necessarily as strong at that exact moment, then who cares? As long as you have an army in your building, you can easily deploy troops or get reservists ready to go. And I can guarantee you it would have saved countless and thousands of millions of lives. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. How would you guys run the military side of the Republic if you guys even would like to run that side? But anyway, may the Force be with you, and as always, have a great rest of your day.